Sometimes our silence is silence, and sometimes it's gathered. And when it's gathered, sometimes there's messages and sometimes there are not messages. But there's a different quality in the room that is alive.
When our meeting has grappled with the question how to deepen its worship when we're in a dry spell, a thing that has worked more than once is to take a deep breath and ask each other, set aside some time, ask each other what we mean by deepened worship. Like, what are we missing? Or what are we longing for? And what do you mean by worship? And, you know, any friend will tell you that if you get into that conversation, you hear really wonderful stuff and really surprising stuff.
Deep worship in a Quaker meeting is about possibility. It's a possibility of the divine breaking in. In order for that to happen, there's a certain level of openness that has to be there.
When I'm in deep worship, I feel like my feet are grounded, as if in like the sand. I'm on the ocean shore and the sand has just like really sucked my feet in. But the waves are continuing to crash at my waist or chest, like that crashing and that uncertainty is happening. My feet are just grounded. There's
a sense of freedom and openness and complete safety. It starts, I think, with the feeling of my moving out from my sense of my own quietedness to a real awareness of the other people in the room.
One of the things that I value so much about Quakerism in particular is the way in which I think that we are all on this journey together and that we can hear God more clearly when we're in worship together. And so I think I come for communion with the other people at the meeting and looking for guidance and wisdom in how to most fully do the work of God the rest of my week.
And maybe you're not thinking about anything particular, but you just have this peace, this calm, this sense that God is with me, Spirit is with me, Christ is with me, however one wants to name the divine. You know, you're quite comfortable to sit there. And there are some days you get done, you know, they start shaking hands and you're like, oh, that was quick.
In Putney Friends meeting, we have a custom of having somebody host the meeting, which is basically closing the meeting, but also being a worshiping presence during the meeting, even before the meeting begins. Many times, friends will come and sit and ground themselves and act as an example for friends walking in, that now is the time to settle.
So if you have care of meeting, you're sort of holding the gathered meeting as your ministry. You know, I'm holding everybody in prayer. I'm focused on the community.
There are times in Fresh Pond when there's vocal ministry that kind of like swoops out of the corner and I wasn't ready for it. And it makes me go, uh-oh. And then there's a response to say, oh, I've got some work to do. But I think that that's part of what the power is in that meeting. It's not just a quiet gathering. It's the fact that we expect and then experience the fact that sometimes the words we're given are bigger than us.
But I think the key to the deepening worship part is letting the messages sink into the silence and letting the whole meeting begin to digest it. It allows the group of people to sink into the spiritual realm and absorb whatever has been said in their own way. We're not really listening. We're listening to each other, but we're listening to God through each other.
I think it's really important to talk about the vocal ministry that happens in Meeting for Worship. I think particularly when people who are giving vocal ministry are able to talk to one another about it and to talk about the experience of what was that like? How did you know that you were supposed to speak? How did you know that you were supposed to stop speaking? How did you know when was the right time to speak? do you feel like you are faithful in your speaking? Because I think that that helps us to understand for ourselves what vocal ministry feels like and what it looks like, and how to develop that as a skill.
When I think about a depth of worship, it starts with every individual. And if you are struggling with it and hungry for something deeper, the first place to start is with your own spiritual practice. My own experience is that we are hungry and we're all waiting. And jumping in, diving in, there's a wealth and a richness there.
I think there's just like an acknowledgement and knowing that my personal spiritual practice greatly influences and deepens my worship and meeting. And that if I'm able to have those times individually with God, within community, and within one-on-one with someone, that those three aspects really create more of a deepening worship.
Some of the things that we've done include having a period of joys and concerns so that there is a definite space for people who feel a need to speak, but whose messages may not rise to the level of ministry.
If you want to talk about deepening meeting for worship, you have to ask, is the gospel present? Well, you don't have to use their language, but is there good news and is there power here? And I want to say, if you want to really talk about deepening worship, blow the lid off of what it looks like and seek after the power and do whatever you need to do to get at that power. That's what will deepen it. And it will look different in Poughkeepsie, it'll look different in urban Detroit, it'll look different in a worship group somewhere tucked up in Alaska. But that's what you want to do. If you want to deepen worship, go after the power of God and keep playing with stuff until you feel like you touch it. And then do that more.